Well, good morning. We're out in the field. A little bit of crop scouting today. Just give an update on what's happening here on the farm. So, it's been an interesting year so far. Interesting in that we've had an absolute terrific start to farming. Crop went in quick, went in easy. Equipment ran smooth, conditions were beautiful. We wrapped up literally a day before a big rain event that put a substantial amount of moisture in our ground to start us off for the season compared to what it was last year. And it just felt amazing, absolutely amazing. So that was like the beginning of May is when that event happened. Since then, about a week later, we had another 4/10 of rain and a little bit more, and we haven't had a drop since. It's now, was it June 17th? So we're well over a month since our last rain event, and things are unfortunately going south quick. So I'm just going to show you guys a little bit what's going on here today and let you see the conditions of the crop. I just pulled off the road. I'm walking now into our winter wheat field. Little patchy here. This is just from crop that didn't come up from last year's seeding. Doesn't represent the whole winter wheat. We have some great winter wheat stand in a lot of areas. Other areas it is a little thin. But I was kind of coming out here where it's a little more consistent. I mean, this isn't a great winter wheat stand, but if you look down here, see all this? That plant is hurting. That means it's trying to conserve moisture. It's going, oh no, I am not gonna have the moisture I need to grow a crop, so I'm gonna have to start cutting off part of myself to preserve that energy, that moisture, to put it into the heads, which are, as you can see, popping out right now. What this does at this stage is the plant is making a decision going, well, I don't have the moisture, so I can't be a 60 bushel winter wheat crop, so I'm gonna have to cut back to 50, and then 40, and then 30. And so as it starts firing leaves off on the bottom, it starts saying, I'm not gonna make any more tillers, I'm gonna stop pushing out heads. So instead of 10 heads, I'm gonna push out 5 or 3 or 7. And as the drought continues and the plant continues to not get any relief, it just keeps cutting that number down, down, down. So what's happening is our yield potential was here, and as the weeks have gone by, it just does this. And there's no return. If we were to get a big rain event right now, we're not going to be back up to here again. It's impossible. The wheat cannot go back at that point. They've already flipped the switches internally and said, nope, not going down that road. Now, if we were to get a big rain event right now, it would fill the heads out that are being produced. You could get some nice plump kernels, and you would salvage the yield that you have. So whatever level you're at right now, you would stay there, and that's good. But if we don't, it's gonna keep going down. It also, what determines is the height of your crop. So because it's so dry, this crop is not gonna grow very tall. It's gonna stop growing. I mean, these should probably be right about here where they're heading out. You see they're down here. Let me put it down here, like here to here. So that means that it's going, well, I can't make a big plant, even though I'd love to have all that plant material out there to absorb sunlight and take in carbon dioxide and whatever else is in the air, nitrogen, whatever it may be. I'm gonna cut back on that because I don't have the water to produce that plant material. So that cuts your yield down. And I was just curious too, I brought a shovel, so I figured, let's just dig down and let's just see how far down this goes. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to get in this ground, to be honest. It's not very soft, but I'll just dig a hole here and let's just see if we can find any moisture. So would I go down about 10 inches or something like that? It looks a little darker down here, but I mean, that's not moisture. You know, it's not clumpy, there's nothing wet there. It's hard as rock. So, let's jump across to the pea field, which is right next door. First, let's just take a look at this stand. Just look at that. That is one awesome yellow pea stand. In fact, I might even see one flower here. This could be a weed, but I see a flower here. Is this one already starting to flower? Oh yeah, look at that. There we go. First of the flowers happening right now. Just started. These peas don't mess around. They get to work quick. So, let's just take a look at these peas. Well, first up, they don't show the sign of drought like the winter wheat does. If you look down here, you can see a little bit of yellowing going on the bottom, but they behave differently. They don't, at least in my experience, start firing off leaves at the bottom like the wheat does. What peas will do is when they're sensing they're dry and they don't have the moisture, they just cut off growth. It just like stops. And then they put all their effort into blossoming, which will be blossoms all over here. And then those eventually turn into pods, and the pods obviously have your peas. And so they'll just cut back their pod production. Let's say a pea plant could have 12, 14 pods, which would be a significant pea plant. It'll go, okay, no, I'm gonna do 8 this year, or 5, or 3. And then as it gets moisture or doesn't get moisture, it'll decide, do I wanna fill those pods? So a pod might have 6, 7, 8, I don't know, peas in it. And then come to harvest, if you're dry, that pod that's that big will only have 3 peas in it. So it'll literally only fill 3 of the peas out of like the 6 or 7 that could have been in that pod. And then on top of that, they'll be small and shriveled because it just doesn't have the energy to produce that. So what's going on right now is the plant's going, I better cut back on some of my plant material because I got to put that energy towards a crop. It's still going to blossom here. Peas are pretty amazing though. They don't take nearly the moisture that wheat does right off the bat, but they still need it. They still need it. So we'll grab our shovel, we'll dig down. How many pods is determined by how many blossoms. Another thing about blossoming is when it happens, it needs to be cool for a number of weeks. 2 or 3 weeks would be best. You don't want hot, boiling temperatures because what that does, it'll burn the blossoms off, and then the pods won't perform because the blossom was never pollinated, never put on there. So let's dig down, let's see what's happened in this field. All right, here we go. So it's a little darker here. I actually feel like I might be able to sense, I mean, it's pretty hard, but a little bit of moisture is still in this ground, I think. It's not bone dry. It's dry, but it's not bone dry. And these peas, here's the roots right there. You know, their roots are going out. I'm sure they're nodulating. It's too hard to pull them up. The ground is so hard I can't. There's the pod. Oh, there's some nodules right there. Nodulating. That's nitrogen fixating going on. That's why we inoculate our peas, is to make those right there. That helps put nitrogen back in the ground. They're accessing that little bit of moisture there. Not much there. It's running out quick. We've had, fortunately, fairly cool days. Very windy, but cool days. So it hasn't just absolutely dried this up. But this isn't going to last long. That is nice to see, though. There's a little in here. I mean, that's not much. that's not ideal. I'd like to have mud, but that's why these peas are still looking like they are right now. And it still looks like a phenomenal pea crop. I mean, we're on the edge of things going downhill fast. There's still quite a yield potential in these peas, and it's not dropped off yet. We've just, as you saw, literally just started blossoming a flower or two here. I mean, that's the only one I see. Looking across this peas here, that's the only white blossom I see. So that pea plant, for whatever reason, had a head start on the others. So, but our weed pressure is down. We've sprayed. You can see the brown in here. This is grass. I don't know if it was wild oats or cheatgrass. It's burning up because we sprayed for that. So we've taken care of the weeds. The stand is absolutely phenomenal. A lot of potential here, a lot of potential. So let's jump across the road. Let's go to our spring wheat. All right, here's our spring wheat. Check out that stand. That's pretty good. I mean, that's a nice spring wheat stand right there. Thick, even, consistent rows. The seed population, I think, was pretty accurate, pretty much close to where we wanted it. So the spring wheat is way younger than the winter wheat. It's seeded in the spring, not the fall. It didn't have the growth in the fall like the winter wheat did. So its root structure isn't going to be as deep as the winter wheat, but it's also a lot earlier stage than the winter wheat. And, you know, there's no heads being pushed out right now. We've got some flag leaves just about to start really showing here, and that's a sign of it's getting ready to start making some heads. If you look down here, you can see the yellow. These leaves are firing off. There's some, I think it does do a little bit of that naturally, even with a wet year, but it's a sign that the plant is seeing some stress. This area obviously got consistent same amount of rain, but this crop is not done yet. Like the peas, it's not set in stone yet. Its yield potential is still up here. It's coming down, but it's still up here. It's basically waiting for that rain, and it hasn't quite decided yet how much is it going to cut back on its production. And so it still has a lot of potential, like the peas, to be a nice crop. It's a nice crop right now. It's got a lot of opportunity ahead of it. So let's dig down, let's take a look, see if we can find anything in this field. That ground is hard. Now this ground is hard. I can't find much there at all. It doesn't look dark at all. It looks just same color as the surface. And it is rock hard. Could be just the quality of the ground that I'm on right now, who knows. But yeah, I mean, I should expect moisture to be there considering it's just 100 yards from where I was earlier. That's kind of the situation in the spring wheat, the yellow peas, and the winter wheat. The winter wheat is going downhill quick because it's at a stage where it really needs moisture, and it's not there. The peas are hanging in there. It's cool, they love that weather. There's a little teeny bit of moisture in the ground still, so not out yet. And they're heavily populated and ready to go. The spring wheat, it's starting to show signs of stress. It's not happy that it's a little low on moisture, but it's still growing, and there's still a lot of yield potential. All right, last up, lentils. Lentils look good too. I'm not gonna bring the shovel because I think it's pretty evident where the moisture's at with that point, but here's our lentil status so far. This has been double seeded. This is the headland. You know, it's again, it's a beautiful lentil stand. I mean, there's a lot coming up here. Most of the seeds came through. A couple tire tracks where I sprayed when it was a little wet a month ago. I probably should have waited a day, but I forget what a reason, wind or something was happening, and I was like, I gotta get this done now. So I did it. But looking down the rows, full, consistent, lot of growth here. The lentils don't take a lot of moisture. That's one thing about these plants is they're really drought resistant. You know, we've only grown them once, and that was like 6 years ago. And we didn't have a very good experience with them because we didn't work the herbicides correctly. We didn't desiccate them in time. It was just kind of a mess. They were super green, combines plugged. It was a mess, and it didn't yield very well too because it droughted that year. We thought we'd give them a shot again because they're really worth a lot right now. There's a lot of value to them if you can grow them. So we're like, well, hate to just miss that opportunity. I mean, a lot of farmers put lentils in this year for that very reason. But overall, they look good. I mean, we haven't put any fungicide on them yet. You know, eventually here we'll probably be looking at that. We haven't had any fungicide or fungus issues on this farm because we've been so dry. I don't think fungus can grow here. And we haven't had the pulse crops consistently like some guys have had. And we do a very good rotation too, 3 to 4 years, minimum of 3, at least sometimes up to 4-year rotation. So we don't have pulses on the same ground until like 3 to 4 years later. So that keeps the fungus issue down, but it's still potential. It could be there. So same boat with these guys. They're little, they're young, they were seeded last. There's a lot of potential left in these lentils. They could get some rain and just explode and grow instead of this tall, that tall. Okay, maybe that tall. They're short. And possibly be really well. We don't have a lot of acres lentils in, so it's not like it'd be a huge loss if this failed, but it still would be nice to see it do well. So this boils down to what is the outlook of crops on the farm? Well, compare this to last year. Last year, we seeded into dry dirt and didn't get rain for 30 days. So our stand was terrible. A lot of crop didn't come up, never germinated. Or if it did germinate, it was so out of stage, it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks behind the initial crop that went in the ground. So we had multiple stages of crop. We during harvest, and there'd be green crop with your ripe crop. And it burnt up. The rain cut off. We only had 2.5 inches of rain, 3 inches for the growing season, something like that. So it didn't have a chance, and it was miserable last year. It was really discouraging. And the prior year before that, same thing, and the year before that, same thing. So this is the first year in about 4 to 5 years that we've actually had a pretty good start to our season. But you know, it's at that turning point. We're right here, and we're starting to do this. Winter wheat's already going down. Spring wheat's turned. Peas and lentils are like sitting right here. So what about what's going to happen? Well, if you look at our sky right now, it's a little bit kind of gloomy. Sun's not out, should be shining bright right now. A little darker down that way. And there is actually a chance today, basically our only chance for the next 10 days. We've been waiting 10 days for this chance. Literally been watching this rain window for as early as they announced it on the forecast. And they've been playing with me. Some days it's like, you're gonna get 1.5 inches of rain. And then some days it's like, you're gonna get 500s. And every day I check like 4 different apps to see what they all say. And they're all over the place. And I should just not ignore, or should not watch them. Should just ignore them and not pay any attention to those apps, because ultimately they don't know. But there is a decent chance of rain today. It's supposed to start in a couple hours here and go most of the day. Say we can get anywhere from 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of rain. If we got a 1/2 inch of rain right now, the winter wheat would perk right back up. It would start pushing more heads up. Spring wheat would stop firing off leaves and would just start growing fast. Peas would start picking up and really growing tall, pushing a lot of blossoms out. It would tell our crop, hey, you're good to go. Keep producing. And that would be amazing. So we're praying for the rain. It just don't want to go through another drought. And if we don't get the rain today, it's going to be a drought year. And we're going to be looking at single digit to low teens across the board. We'll probably have 8 to 9 bushel peas. Our spring wheat will probably run some areas 12 to 14, and in some areas 7, 5. The winter wheat could be teens, mid-teens. I don't know about the lentils. They're so hard to predict. At least I haven't had enough experience with them. But I would venture to guess teens, maybe less than that, maybe high single digits. And it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. It's just so much effort put into growing this crop. I mean, the amount of mornings waking up dark, going to bed at dark, the amount of time spending working on the equipment to make sure it runs so you can get the crop in time. I mean, we worked our tails off to get this crop in. We were ahead of a lot of guys around here, and I don't mean bragging. That's just, we were trying to put the effort in to give ourselves the best chance to make this crop so it could succeed, because we need it to. And it doesn't matter what you do. If you don't get the rain, you're not going to get a crop. And we don't have irrigation, for those that have heard this channel or know about us. We have no groundwater, so there's no access to pump water up to our lot. You can't run it through your sprayers, because you'd need literally tens of thousands of sprayer loads to do like one field. And we have over 100 fields in this farm. So we don't have any options other than just praying that the good Lord brings some rain and relieves this droughted land here. Because, and this is not just us. There's a lot of farms across Montana that are sitting this way. Now, a lot of Montana's supposed to get good rain today, so I think a lot of guys are going to get relief. Southern Alberta is very similar boat. Saskatchewan, up and down the Rockies. And they predicted, the forecast, or the outlook initially this year was dry, hot, is what they were predicting. So, I mean, this isn't a surprise, but when you're getting this 4 to 5 years, you're kind of thinking your statistical chance of getting out of a drought is getting better and better. You know, it's like we should get there. I remember years where we had wet Junes. It was just muddy all the time. Water, mosquitoes. The crop was just growing hard. And it's starting to become a faint memory. It's just, now it's like I don't know, this patchy, short, spend a combine 2 hours in the field before your grain tank's full, like 3 hours, 4 hours to fill one grain truck. You've got a whole bin yard over here and you fill 2 grain bins, 4 of them maybe. I mean, and if you guys go back and look at our videos from like 2016, or all that drone footage and stuff, you'll see we had good crops. There was 35, 40 bushel wheat back then. And that for us, that's good wheat. So, I don't know. It's, drought's not uncommon, and there's been a lot of places that have been known to last 5, 7, 10 years. So, I mean, it rules out what's going to happen here. My place right now is I just have to keep my head high, trust the Lord, do not be anxious, and I've been failing at that. I've been looking at the forecast, and I see it jump up and says it's going to get 1.5 inches of rain, and I just am like, I get goosebumps. I'm like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. We've got a chance. And then you wake up the next day, and they're like, oh, 500s. And you're going, and all of a sudden you get this feelings and memories of watching the crop burn last year, and you're like, here we go. I'm going to go down this road again. And Dad is feeling it. Leg Arms is feeling it. It's just discouraging. I mean, we could be making tens of millions of dollars. Say we have an oil well on this farm, and we're just raking in unbelievable amount of money. It still hurts to watch your crop die, even if financially that's not a problem. But the thing is with our farm is financially, we've got multiple families that rely on this farm. Thank goodness for YouTube and an alternate income, because I'd be making nothing. I mean, nothing. So, and government programs too. You have to be thankful for them, as much as I don't like government money. It's saved our bacon the last couple of years. It really has. I don't know how we'd be farming right now without them, and a lot of guys around us. So, all right, it's enough ranting. I don't want to be doom and gloom, because guys, I'll tell you what, it is a great time to be alive, and there is a lot of amazing things going on in my life, in my brother's life, in my dad's life. I got something in my eye, and there's still a lot of potential for a crop out there. We could get the rain. We could get a rain now. Say today it does rain, and I'll chime back in a little bit here and let you guys know if it rained or not. You'll see a look on my face if it did or not. But we could get a thunderstorm, which is typically what we get in July, and it could just comb over the farm and dump a ½ inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch of rain in the first week of July, and bam, all of a sudden you're set for the next 10 days, the next 14 days. So it can happen. Well, anyways, I better wait. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go and do some work in the shop and watch the skies and check the radar, and we'll see. Maybe we will get enough to give us a shot of life support and keep the crop going. Because I know a number of you guys out there are doing the opposite, or dealing with the opposite. You have too much rain and you can't get your crop in the ground, and I don't even know what that would be like. But it sucks either way. Too much, too little. It's just trying to find that right amount. And when you get the right amount, man, it is just heavenly. It's so nice. So, all right, I'll be back in a second, right after this. Well, now I've got the hood mounted on. This headlights, they're known for these 377s for having problems, and I think this one's had the updated kit done to it, but a couple of the brackets were just kind of rusted, and the headlight was loose in here. So we're tightening that up, getting that fixed up. I'm gonna switch gears, come to the back of the truck here, and grab the fenders and put them over the rear axle, since we don't need room anymore to get in here, because it's very shiny, except for that right there. Ignore that. I got some dirt on there when it was a little wet of paint on the fifth wheel hitch, so I gotta clean that off and take care of that. But get the fenders on, and then I'm gonna get the buffing wheel, clean these tanks up, buff them up a little bit, aluminum stairs on the other side, try to clean them up, put them on. We still are waiting on a couple pieces, like the heater core. It's gotta go in the cab so we can button up that. That should be here soon. And then some little things here and there. And then we need to take it for a nice test drive. I haven't really ran it down the road yet, so we gotta find out how well this thing runs. But we're getting close. Here we go. Make or break rain of the season. This is literally it. This will determine what kind of crop we have right here. It just started, so we'll see. We'll check in a little bit, see how it's sitting in about 3 hours. Hopefully we'll have 3 tenths. That'd be amazing. All right. Fenders are installed. They look nice. They look really nice. I love this plastic stuff. You know, not a lot of times on new equipment where I'm like, I love plastic. For fenders, I love plastic. Light, simple, relatively cheap. Good setup. It's gonna keep the rocks from doing this. That's what we're trying to do. Which I'm gonna touch all these up. It's gonna be fun, but no more rocks coming this way. Legarm's working on the Jake brake on the shifter. He's loving it. Yeah. He said a lot of really nice things to it. He's like, I love you. You're so fun. I want to do this all day.
You know, it's like petting a pretty bird, you know? Pretty bird. Pretty bird.
Yeah, he's happy.
Yeah.
And I'm taking apart this door. And I did not know how many screws they put in these doors. I took off this many right here, just getting the panel off, and then I've got another panel to get in there. Oop, leave stay up there. To get to the door handle because it's all wore out, and 2, I got new handles that aren't corroded like that. So, but to get to that, all this has got to come off. So that's what I'm currently working on. All right, how are we sitting? Just past 3 o'clock. We've got puddles. It's been just so slow and steady all day. Just lightly coming down. This is absolutely what you want, 100%. You just need to do this for a while. Because think about it. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, the ground's wet, you got rain. No, it doesn't quite work like that. I mean, yes, that is a rain, but like take your spray bottle you use to like spray your windows to wipe them down, okay? Take it on some dry dirt and go and then take your finger and scrape away at the dirt and see how far that moisture went down. You got to sit there and go, I mean, for a while, about use up half that bottle to get the moisture to actually start going down to where the roots are. Well, let's say anything with rain. They're little droplets, and just, you know, the surface just being just lightly wet doesn't mean that your plants are getting anything out of it. The leaves can absorb a little bit of moisture, but the actual roots are what really pulls all that moisture into the plant. So you gotta get the water down to the roots. And to get the water to the roots, you gotta have pressure to push that down, and that pressure is more water on top of water. So that's what's happening out here. It's good. So tally so far, 3/10. 3/10 of rain. That officially is gonna make it to the roots. It's not a lot of rain, but it's gonna help. So we're now in the actually affecting the crop amount, and there's still time for rain to come, so maybe we'll get to that ½ inch like we want. Keep praying. Well, out of Peterbilt's infinite wisdom and, you know, their motto of let someone else deal with it, used rivets on this door handle. So I've got to drill them out. So as you can see, I already started that one. So you just put a punch, center punch them, and be real careful with your drill bit. It's real slow, start cutting, and I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill down to where it gets to the shaft of the rivet, and then I'll be able to pop that top off and then push the rivets out, take that handle out, put the new one in. And we've got some nice stainless steel bolts that'll just go in place. They won't quite match this, but it'll look kind of like that there. Only we're gonna replace all these two with stainless. So it'll all match and be fine, but it's the paint. Let's do this I don't like the paint. I don't want to do that to the paint. Let's just stop at that one. It's going up. No, don't do that. Okay, there, got that far enough. There we go.
I don't understand because we were talking about like why do they have 2 switches on this one? I know, but that. One more thing I got to make on this truck is the compressor hose that goes to the dryer, and I need to keep this fitting right here. So they've got it on the firewall right here, wraps around, and then goes to the compressor. And I got a new hose, new fitting on the compressor side, but this side here I need to keep. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the lathe and cut off this little piece right here because I need to keep that. And then I've got another crush ring to crush onto this, and hopefully it works. If not, well, figure out something else. Let's tape this so it doesn't be flopping around everywhere. There we go. All right, now I gotta make sure that this thing doesn't hit. Now let's split it down the side. Basically, I just needed to cut this little ring in that groove, cut that out, go over here to the bench. Hi, Nick. And then slice this down the center. Okay, there's 1/2. There we go. That's what I needed. And then I need this here to go on there. So basically something like this. Okay. Now what I need to do is I need to mark because this one's going to be rotated a certain way, the other one's going to be rotated a certain way, and if I just crimp it on the hose, they're not going to line up correctly. So I need to put this on and then put the other one on and line them up, make marks on it, and grip them.